This is the B-52 Strateofortress, the U.S. Air Force's Iron Giant, soaring through the skies for over half a century. Despite its age, this respected warbird has not only stood the test of time, but has evolved to outshine the latest autonomous drones and stealth bombers. Thanks to two radical upgrades, the B-52 continues to be a central force in modern warfare. But how did an aircraft designed in the early Cold War era manage to stay so relevant? To find out, we need to rewind to its dramatic beginnings. Right after the end of World War II, the U.S. Air Force needed an aircraft that was able to fly great distances and deliver nuclear bombs without needing to stop on other bases. Considering that they would carry nuclear warheads, which are highly classified, the U.S. wanted full control and security over their assets, even if it meant landing on a friendly airbase. So in 1955, the first operational B-52 joined the 93rd Heavy Bombardment Wing in California. And in less than a year, this wing became fully operational. However, at the very beginning, this came with a huge cost. The taxiways were getting damaged because of the airplane's weight. The fuel system had problems with leaks and icing. The worst of it all, the weapons control computers were not reliable from time to time. It didn't take long when in 1956, the first fatal accident killed 4 men on board. Furious with all of these problems, the Air Force took immediate action to hire teams for routine maintenance and checkups. From that point forward, the B-52 began making history. In 1956, it dropped the first airdrop thermonuclear bomb, the Mk-15, successfully fulfilling its most crucial role of delivering nuclear warheads. Then again, a year later, in 1957, on January 16th, 3 B-52s began their world tour without stopping anywhere, fulfilling the second most important requirement. It took them 45 hours and 19 minutes to cover 24,325 miles. That's almost the same distance of the Earth's circumference at the equator. This was made possible with the help of in-air refueling. With the big improvements in the airplane, especially the fuel capacity, the ordnance payload, and the turbofan engines, this aircraft fitted perfectly with the Air Force's plans of having an aircraft able to carry a ton of weapons over long distances. So, what's the scoop on how they've actually been using this beast? Well, the B-52 wasn't just sitting pretty. It was a critical player during the Cold War, mostly playing chicken with the Soviet Union. Picture this. These giants cruising near the USSR borders, ready to throw down at a moment's notice. Fast forward to 1965, and the B-52s are showing their might in Vietnam. The D and F models rolled out, and boy, did they bring the thunder. During Operation Linebacker 2, over 200 of these bad boys dropped a staggering 20,000 tons of bombs. This onslaught was so intense, it pretty much forced North Vietnam to think, maybe we should talk peace. Not stopping there, when 1991 rolled around, the B-52 was front and center in Operation Desert Storm. Flying over Iraq, they were more lethal than ever, now armed with cruise missiles. But hey, before you get too comfortable with that image, let me tell you, there's an upgrade coming that's about to shake things up even more for the B-52, tackling a major challenge it has faced for years. Under pressure from the Air Force leadership to make the B-52 carry more bombs without turning it into a supergiant airplane, the engineers came up with a brilliant idea, the Rotary launcher. In simple words, it's like a rotating carousel, but instead of horses, it holds bombs. A crew member controls it, and the hydraulic system spins it around to present the bomb at the airplane's bay doors. This new setup is a game changer compared to the old method for two main reasons. First, fixed bombs take up a lot of space, especially the big ones, leaving the gunner with no flexibility. But with the Rotary launcher, bombs aren't stuck in a fixed sequence. The crew can now pick and deploy the exact bomb they need. Second, imagine a 500,000-pound aircraft taking off and flying long distances only to turn back because it doesn't have the right bombs. And the answer to that was the Common Strategic Rotary Launcher, or for short, CSRL. This new launcher could not only hold more weapons than the previous one, but could also hold any of the cruise missiles, starting from guided bombs, long-range missiles, and cluster bombs to nuclear weapons and anti-ship missiles. This bomber became a flying death machine that you definitely did not want as your enemy. But getting this bad boy installed isn't easy. It takes some serious heavy lifting and precise work. Every little detail has to be planned out, and the execution requires tons of communication among the engineers. After each installation, a mandatory inspection is done because there's absolutely no room for errors. Once loaded, the CSRL is then carefully moved to the B-52. The engineers use special equipment known as munitions handling trailers that are specifically designed to ensure the crew's safety while working with heavy and complex munitions. And then comes the toughest part: installing the CSRL in the B-52 bomb bay. This can take up to 11 long hours. The crew has to align every part perfectly and ensure all the connections. If they don't, just imagine something going wrong while having a nuke on board. So what does this upgrade mean for the B-52 bomber's performance? With the CSRL, the B-52 becomes super flexible, giving commanders more choices for targeting during missions. This is huge because battlefield situations can change at any moment. Plus, the ability to carry more weapons means the B-52 can stay in the air longer, boosting its presence on the battlefield. Whether it's finishing its primary mission and waiting for another task, or just flying around reacting to enemy movements, this formidable presence is a massive morale boost for the troops on the ground, like having a guardian angel watching over them. Once the B-52 lands back, the launcher allows for quicker loading and unloading of weapons. This efficiency not only saves time, but also ensures the aircraft can respond much faster if necessary. A real-case scenario is the Battle of Qashm in Syria. On February 7, 2018, around 500 pro-Syrian government and Russian Wagner fighters started an assault to capture some of the oil fields protected by the U.S. military. Unfortunately, at those very moments, only a few special forces, Marines, and Syrian Democratic Forces were present. Despite their best effort, they couldn't hold the positions for as long as the enemy had vehicles, tanks, and mortar. However, not long after, the U.S. started to obliterate the enemy with drones, artillery, fighter jets, attack helicopters, and none other than the B-52 bomber. The massive firepower stopped the enemy cold, keeping those oil fields right where they belong. But this aging aircraft has its own challenges. Keeping it operating smoothly, especially the CSRL and its engines, is no easy task. The B-52 is packed with complex electrical and mechanical systems that need to be checked almost all the time to ensure everything is working perfectly. They look for any signs of wear and tear, making sure all the moving parts are well lubricated and ensure that the electronic guidance and targeting systems are always on point. They've already learned the lessons of the 1950s and cannot afford to repeat them. On the other hand, the airplane's engines are becoming a big issue. They're 1960s vintage and they're really keeping the airplane behind compared to other aircraft. They've become less reliable and fuel efficient over time, and the main problem is they take too long to start. If the airbase is under attack, these might start flying about as fast as a sloth trying to run away from danger. To get around this problem, engineers used a method called the Cartridge Start. They activate explosive charges that contain a small amount of gunpowder in a specific part of the engine. This creates a rapid burst of hot gas, which gets the turbine spinning. This is like giving the engine a big explosive push to get it moving. The concept behind it is quite similar to pushing a car downhill to start it, but with no explosives, of course. However, this method isn't without its downsides. The explosive charges put a lot of stress on the engines, causing wear and tear that leads to more frequent maintenance and ultimately shortens the engine's lifespan. It's like revving a cold engine on a winter morning. It gets you going, but it's tough on the machinery. So, what's the Air Force doing about all this? To handle these problems, an extensive modification program for the B-52 engines is underway. the focus is on installing modern engines that use less fuel and don't require the cartridge start. It's like upgrading from an old, unreliable lawnmower that needs a pull start every time to a brand new model with an easy electric start. Testing and evaluation are set to finish by the end of 2024, ensuring the aircraft gets this upgrade very soon. But there is one more question. How does the B-52 fit in with the latest and greatest, like the B-21 Raider? Even with more advanced aircraft joining the force, the B-52 still holds unique capabilities that are hard to beat. Imagine it like this. The B-21 Raider is perfect for sneaking behind enemy defenses with its modern technology and destroying air defense systems and any other high-value targets. On the other hand, the B-52 is the big sledgehammer, smashing the enemy defensive positions, opening ground corridors for Allied forces to move on. Its extensive and varied payload, combined with long range and endurance, makes it incredibly valuable for ongoing support missions. Basically, the B-52 and the B-21 are like a dynamic duo. The B-52 handles the heavy lifting and long missions, while the B-21 takes on the risky, penetrating operations. Together, they create a powerful combination that ensures the U.S. maintains a strong presence on the battlefield. In a nutshell, upgrades like the CSRL and the new engines keep the B-52 a reliable and highly effective part of the Air Force. As the B-52 continues to evolve, it remains at the heart of the U.S. military strategic triad, delivering precision power to tackle future challenges. Bye for now.